According to the passage, the author played a normal Indigo Bunting song backwards in order to determine which of the following. The reference to this is in the fourth paragraph. We see it here. The role of the song figures in interspecies recognition was then examined. We created experimental songs composed of new figures by playing a normal song backwards, which changed the detailed forms of the figures without altering frequency ranges or gross temporal features. Since the male indigos gave almost a full response to the backward song, we concluded that a wide range of figure shapes can evoke positive responses. It seems likely, therefore, that a specific configuration is not essential for intraspecies recognition, but it is clear that song figures must conform to a particular frequency range, must be within narrow limits of duration, and must be spaced at particular intervals. So in all of this, there are certain things which are inherent. Let's look directly at the options and try to connect them to the passage. A says, what are the limits of the frequency range that will provide recognition by the indigo bunting? This talks about the limits of the frequency range. We see that that is something which is almost fixed, but it is clear that the song figures must conform to a particular frequency range. So it's not a question of whether there are limits to a frequency range and what limits are there to a frequency range. That is too minor an aspect. What they were trying to find out is how much can the figure shape vary, or how much specific it must be in order to still be recognizable. So this option is not a very valid option, very valid choice. It's a minor issue. Option A can be eliminated. Option B says, what is the time duration necessary for recognition by the indigo bunting? Again, we see as we have eliminated A, we can also eliminate B, because time duration refers to this phrase here and this phrase here. Particular intervals, limits of duration, they're both talking about the aspect of time. So as A is not relevant, B is not relevant. Not significant. They are in the same context, but they're not as significant. So B can be eliminated. C tells us how specific must a figure shape be for it to be recognized by the indigo bunting. So this is essentially what we needed. How specific must a figure shape be? That was the question they were trying to answer. So is it that specific that it has to be that specific order or that specific sequence? They found that that's not necessarily true, because a normal song was played backwards, and despite that, while certain things were kept the same, the male indigos gave almost a full response to the backward song. So it was understood that the figures or the figure shapes or even the songs, they need not be too specific as long as they have certain structural formats maintained. They can still work, and the indigos will still recognize the song as their own species song. So this was a relevant question, the one that was being looked into, the one that the experimenter sought to answer. So we can qualify C. Option D says, how much variation in the pacing of the song figures affect the indigo bunting's recognition of the figures? Again, the pacing is an issue that we see from the first statement here. Realizing that the role of the song figures in interspecies recognition was then examined. We created experimental songs composed of new figures by playing a normal song backwards, which changed the detailed forms of the figures without altering frequency ranges or gross temporal features. So we find that the pacing was also something which was kind of maintained as a stable quantity, as a fixed quantity. So this also doesn't give us quite the answer that we are looking for. The answer that we're looking for, or the question that the experimenters were seeking to answer, was the significance of specificity to figures, to song figures, in the recognition with the indigo buntings, and that is given by option C. So we can eliminate this choice. The correct answer is option C.